Welcome to the internet. Billions of devices connected to each other, talking to each other and sharing information. Human beings who operate these devices create information and put it out on this mega network that spans the entire globe. One human from another part of the globe can pick up information put out by some other human and do shit or even take a shit on that information itself. All thanks to this wonderful thing called the internet. Welcome to the internet, everyone. We love it here. I know a lot of people who are watching this video are who I call the children of the internet. You are people born after the year 2000. Right now, you are in your mid 20s or late 20s. You gained awareness in the 2000s just as computers became smartphones that you could carry around in your pockets. You grew up with a computer or some device in your house which has internet access. You have as many virtual friends as you have friends IRL. You are the people who came up with the internet slang like IRL so that I don't have to say in real life. Social media was a default part of your lives growing up. It was not something you had to adapt to. You grew up with the internet as an integral part of your lives, like a constant companion, like a shadow. But rewind 10 years before that. 10 years before देखो 2000 जमाना आ गया मिलके इंटरनेट पे जीने का बहाना आ गया. That time it's the 90s and everything is different. I was born in that decade before you, the children of the internet. I saw a computer for the first time in 1997 when I was 8 years old. I was told to type in commands into a black screen with a C prompt on it. It was bizarre, but hey, prince.exe was awesome. 90s kids will remember. A few years after that, Windows happened. And there was a mouse and the pointer and the command prompts were gone. Then, somewhere around 2003, this sound entered my life. This is the sound that screamed, "Welcome to the internet." This was around the same time you children of the internet were popping out of your mother's wombs. It was when people like me were experiencing the internet for the first time and our eyes were popping out of our freaking heads. I know there will be people my age in their mid 30s who are watching this video and fondly thinking about experiences like mine. I think you older folks will get what I'm about to say next. We, the millennials, were the last bunch of human beings who remember a whole world without the internet. We have lived in a world where information was not readily available anytime we wanted. We have seen a time when one image took an hour to load up on the screen. That's also because our dads wanted to make an urgent call and you couldn't use the phone and the internet at the same time. It was very annoying. If someone picked up the phone, you had to do this all over again. I can say this with utmost confidence that people my age understand the internet better than any other bunch of human beings alive today. We are not children of the internet. We are like the siblings of the internet. We grew up together and we get each other. We shaped the early internet and it shaped us. The internet speeds got faster when our brains advanced and went from school to college. The internet threw up shit like Orkut and MySpace just when we were learning to socialize with other human beings. The internet became wireless when we left home to do our first jobs and untethered ourselves from our motherships. We are the internet and the internet is us. And because we have seen this whole thing scale from the ground up, we also know very well how much of a wild world it is. It is like a practically uncontrollable flow of information that drowns you on a daily basis. It's wild, it's freeing, it's chaotic, and it's beautiful. And you know who doesn't like beautiful, chaotic things? The government. Yes, the government never liked this and has been trying to control this monster called the internet for ages. At a very basic level, the government doesn't like chaos. It doesn't think we can handle it. It doesn't trust citizens with every and any kind of information because they worry about misuse. Like parents who don't want their kids to be exposed to uncomfortable content on the internet, the government does the same thing. It's an authority figure that tries to gatekeep everything you and I see. If a riot breaks out, they will shut off access to the internet entirely. If they see TikTok getting popular and people getting addicted to it, they'll ban it. If they see a new form of exchange being used, if they see online betting taking hold, they'll tax the hell out of it because why should you have all the fun? If 5 bad actors use the dark web to sell drugs, then the rest of the 95 must suffer because now nobody can be trusted. When one journalist shares a video that exposes the shady dealings of the government, then everyone else must suffer censorship. When one company processes personal data to do targeted advertising, then the government is like, ooh, we want that shit. 2024 elections are coming up and we want to insert political propaganda and control the population for sure because this is the shit and oh my god, we can brainwash people at scale. Oh my god, yes, we know the best and we want this. Hello, citizens of the internet, and welcome to part 3 of Ranveer Does Fluffoganda. In case this is the first video you are seeing on my humble nerdy channel, welcome. I'm Nath, and I have done 2 other videos about Ranveer Allahabadia's non-political political interviews. Yeah, he just keeps saying that.
So this is just two engineers nerding out basically. I'm sure you're going to get to learn a lot from this one. Big thanks to Sir. Big thanks to MyGov for teaming up with TRS and helping us produce this incredible series of cabinet ministers featured on non-political political podcasts for the first time on the Indian internet.
Anyway, go check out the other 2. These videos are essentially an excuse for me to talk about what is politics, do some poetry reading, explain geopolitics, narrate a story about man-child Meghnad, and a lot more. Oh, by the way, and I see all the comments about, oh, you're just riding on beer biceps ka success, just trying to get attention, ha. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm drawing in people using pure biceps and using it as an excuse to draw attention to larger concepts which I think are important to talk about. Thank you, beer biceps. It's not like I'm hiding it, and if you don't like it, well, tough shit, because this video will go to all sorts of wonderful places, like it always does, and you will miss that. If you continue to watch, well, enjoy. This episode is about the internet. It is about this guy who exists everywhere on the internet, and it is about his interaction with this guy who currently has a say about what happens on the internet. And it is also about you. Yes, you, the people who live on the internet, the children of the internet, the siblings of the internet, and older folks also, I guess, because they also live on WhatsApp, I guess. I'm going to tell you how your freaking lives are about to change like donkey balls. Oh, you have no goddamn idea what is about to happen. Holy shit, are you reading the news even? What is happening?
Have you ever watched आपकी अदालत?
Yes, of course.
आप पे आरोप है कि आपने PUBG बैन किया.
हाँ.
That's true.
हाँ, बैन किया है और हम हमारा in a sense duty to all of you is to keep the internet safe.
हाँ ठीक है, ये कर लो पहले, फिर बात करते हैं. Rajeev Chandrashekhar, our Minister of State for Electronics and Information Technology, sat down with Sir Beer Biceps to talk about the internet, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and a wee bit about how all these mangy critics are not saying good things about the government. Boo-hoo!
But there are many people today, we are a 75-year-old democracy. There are many people who would like to pull the country back into the same old politics of the 65 years.
Divide and rule.
Divide, rule, create suspicion, create fear, perpetuate fault lines. ये कब तक हम fault line के बारे में बात करेंगे? We
Yeah.
have to talk about the future.
Yeah. I think there's 3 primary thought leaders here who are actually trying to bite at you guys. One's journalists who have just taken on that thing of being against the
Mhm.
BJP. The second is probably some leaders of the opposition who are constantly putting forward narratives. And again, I'm not batting for you here. This is just my observation. Third is content creators. And I also feel everyone is entitled to their own opinion. But as consumers, you need to read between the lines. For me, this whole trip of talking to you guys in the cabinet, I've constantly read between the lines, and I can genuinely vouch for how much you guys want to take the country forward for the next generation.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But first, let's talk about you, the people on the internet who really need to know what is happening to the internet. I went into this interview thinking Sir Prayagrajia will ask the minister about the personal data protection bill. In my view, this is one of the most profound pieces of legislation that is being proposed by this government, and it was brought up.
The first thing about this is the underlying raw material, if you want to call it, for everything, including the data economy or AI, is personal data of people. In the monsoon session, we will legislate the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, which is going to create a total behavioral change amongst all these companies who collect data from Indians. So, what was said on your show that I am very worried about technology, data being transported and exported, will come to a grinding halt. People cannot export data, people cannot misuse data, there will be no exploitation of personal data anymore after this bill is passed.
But this was the only mention of it. This is what I call a drive-by mention. I mean, what does it even mean? What data, what export and where, why would it come to a halt? Ranveer, of course, didn't ask him about it. Neither did the minister go into too much detail about it. But fear not, my fellow nerds. Too much detail is kind of my thing. And thank you very much, Ranveer, for giving me the opportunity to ride on your popularity and do my thing. You know what? This one sentence by the minister is about to turn into 5 whole chapters. Yes, how exciting! So much detail, because I believe this one line is worth focusing on more than stuff like this.
Now, I don't want to bore everybody with the complex treatise on quantum computing, excepting to say this is a pathway or a runway to a totally new model of computing and new redesign of technology to power computing.
Let me have a shot
yeah,
at it
yeah,
just
yeah.
to help
Sure,
you
sure,
with
sure,
some
sure.
context. Okay. So basically, computers keep getting better as time passes.
Correct.
At some point, computers are going to get so good that they can calculate so deeply
Yeah.
that you'll actually be able to create atoms and molecules inside the computer.
Correct.
Now, what that effectively means is that the R&D, the research and development that's going on in chemistry labs and biology labs, will now be able to be done inside a computer, which is not possible on current computers, because current computers work on binary systems, which is ones
Yeah,
and zeros.
yeah.
Eventually, computers are going to get so deep and so fast.
Excepting one correction, that the current track and trend of high performance computing will not lead into quantum computing. This is a totally parallel track.
Okay.
Good lord. Okay, ignore that for now. Let's go super basic and talk about the information highway. The internet is like a highway that connects one city to the other. Let's say you desperately want the new iPhone, but you live in Jhansi and it's not available there. You will get into your car on the highway, drive it to Delhi, go to the new shiny Apple store, stand in line, get what you want, and come back home all triumphant and shit. Seems simple enough, but it's not. In the middle of the road, there will be checkpoints. You will have to pay toll. Your car might be checked to see what it contains. If you also buy some drugs with the iPhone, then you are screwed. Again, simple enough, but there is another layer we need to add to this: an information layer. What car are you driving? How much fuel did you fill? What was your start point and end point in this journey? What did you buy in Delhi? For how much? How fast were you driving? Did you have anyone else with you? Where did you stop in the middle to eat aloo paratha? Did you leave reviews like this on Google?
Got tin piece in the roti. Hygiene was pathetic, and after we told them, their reactions was it's normal thing. They not even said sorry. Seems normal for them. Avoid them if you care your health.
On a normal highway, the checkpoint people will not ask you all of this. But on the information highway called the internet, all of this information is being stored somewhere. And this is freakishly valuable information, by the way. If you drive a 5-year-old hatchback, a car company who wants to sell you an SUV is very much interested in this information. If you go to buy an iPhone in Delhi from Jhansi, Apple is very interested to know this. It will also want to know how many people in Jhansi desire their product. Did you pay cash or did you use a credit card? The banks are interested to know this because it would also mean you're a high net worth individual who can be spammed with calls saying, "Sir, please take loan. We have pre-approved loan for you, ma'am. Please go into debt. Please gold loan ले लो. प्लीज हमारे कर्जे में डूब के गोते लगाओ प्लीज मैम सर प्लीज बी indebted to us गोते लगाओ प्लीज." All those spam calls you get, some restaurant or a coffee shop or a movie theater somewhere that you gave your number to sold it on the internet and now you're getting these fun calls. This is the internet, the information highway. You, the user, is dropping personal data with every single action you take. You don't know it, but you are. Like dandruff and dead skin cells, you drop data everywhere. And someone, somewhere has access to this data so that they can figure out who you are, what you do, how much you can spend, and then spam products on your face. But selling you things is not the only use your data is useful for. Okay, now I'm going to add another layer to this. One of the most interested parties to know all this information is not some company that wants to sell you phones or give you loan, because they're just selling you stuff. You can potentially control your impulses, resist, or just say no. But the other party that is interested in your data is the government. And it is very interested in all this information for very different reasons. Two main reasons actually. One, it wants to provide better services to you. If they know how many cars are using a particular highway, it helps them take a call on whether a 4-lane highway is required or an 8-lane highway. If they see a high demand for iPhones, they can call up Apple and say, "Hey, look, big market in country. Come and set up factory here. We will give you subsidized land and cheap labor. See data. Yeah, come now. We give tax break to you and you take all the money, all the profits. Come only, come." If they see you going to an ATM and withdrawing cash, they'll be like, "Arey, why you do this? Use UPI na? See, it's easy. Just scan QR code and money transfer. Ooh, why do this cash and all nonsense? No, bad idea, very bad." So the personal data that you provide will help them make our collective lives better. Kind of. But then there is the second reason. Number 2, surveillance. The government is like a suspicious parent in a lot of ways. They want to trust you, the citizen, but they love you too much, yaar, and want to protect you at all times also. So like Alok, Nath from every 90s movie, they will decide what is good for you and push you towards it. When you step out of your house, Alok Nath will ask, "Why are you going out? Going to buy drugs, huh? Who is that friend you hang out with? Oh, you're having an affair or what? Beta, this is not okay. Focus on your studies. Now let me lock you up in a room so that you don't do all this nonsense and ruin your life. Ye mera India, sanam mera India. I love my India." The government will do this about a lot of things. They are very interested to know what you are doing on the internet, what you are saying, and whether it clears their filters of who is a good citizen. They're also interested in who you marry, what you eat, which countries you visit, who you take money from and why. Because any of these things can raise red flags in their heads and make you an undesirable as a citizen.
Same-sex relationship, marrying someone from a different religion, different gotra, chi, red flag. Eating non-veg in holy city, drinking booze, smoking weed, eating beef. Gandi, gandi, gandi baat, gandi baat, gandi baat. Red flag. You work with children, women, and survivors of gender based violence? What? You work at an NGO? You get money from foreign countries? What? Hey, whoa. Okay, you have an agenda against India. Shame, puppy shame. Red flag.
See what I mean? Back in the 90s, the government had to put in a lot of effort to find out about what you are up to. They would have to physically track people to find this information. But not anymore. Now they have this lovely information highway called the internet where we are all giving them this information voluntarily. Which helps Alok Nath do what Alok Nath does best: control us. And when you step out of line, there are some useful idiots like Ranveer who provide a platform for a minister to say, aha, ye dekho, all these critics.
How are you guys looking at that minority which is like criticizing you guys constantly and not even listening or not even open to what you guys are doing?
No, look, we live in a democracy. We are the world's oldest democracy. We are the world's largest democracy, and so therefore, some amount of dissent, some amount of pushback, cynicism, skepticism is inevitable in a democracy. But to a large part, in our democracy, for several years and decades, people have propagandized, and that propaganda has stuck in people's heads about our party being anti this or anti this or anti that. And it takes a lot of patient engagement to tell people who we really are and what our intentions are and what our ideology is. But where I take a lot of time to explain to people is when they have misgivings based on false information or misinformation. Modi ji is against a community, BJP is against somebody. There is no basis for it. And I always say, you look at the last 9 years of our track record, there is no discrimination, there is equitable access, inclusion of the best kind to everybody, regardless of gender, region, geography, faith. And if you can point out one example, then I'm willing to say, fine, you are right.
Really, dude? You're just going to let him say that and, just take it? Bilkis Bano is a big, stark example of what he said being totally untrue. Umar Khalid is in jail for the last 3 years and his bail hearing keeps getting postponed. But I guess that's all chill. At least try to push back a little bit. Maybe Ranveer? Nah. He's just a useful idiot for the government to do fluffoganda and can say whatever they want and just get away with it. Just like this shit.
I mean, the one thing I've understood through the show is that the anti-BJP narrative is that you guys don't want minorities to.
Yeah. And I say, boss, mujhe batao na. What is it, whether it is building homes for the poor, whether it is giving water supply, whether it is where is it that we say anything that is remotely even coming into that territory?
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't remotely come into that territory. When Anurag Thakur goes and screams Desh ke gaddaro ko, goli maro salo ko, he's just inviting people for a garba party. When Yogi ji does 80-20, 80-20 in his speech, he's just reading out the cricket score, I guess. When Modi ji says, kapdo se pehchan lete hai, he's making a fashion statement. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it doesn't remotely ever come into that territory. All hail the government. ये मेरा इंडिया, धर्म मेरा इंडिया, करम मेरा इंडिया. I love my India. hot coffee. Very nice. Alright, subscribe and all, guys. Guys, please subscribe. Uh, you know, just subscribe. I need subscribers. I need views. And also 1.5x. You know what? 1.5x, you can do the thing which will make me faster when I'm actually slow and you are impatient. But yeah. Okay, now it's time to talk about Chapter 2. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. What is Chapter 2? Coming right up. 2024 elections are upon us. It's been 10 years since the Modi government has been in power and a lot has changed. First time voters, those who will vote for the first time in a national election next year, would be between 18 to 23 years old. 10 years ago, they were 8 and 13 years old. And in case you are one of those people, let me give you a small recap of how internet has been shaped by this government and where we are today. Way back in ancient times in 2013, the country was pissed off. The CAG had flagged some sus activity that the UPA was doing with telecom spectrum and coal auctions. It later turned out to be nothing, but that's a detail that is irrelevant now because these revelations made people angry as hell. There was a ghastly Nirbhaya gang rape case which made people angrier against the UPA government. The BJP, which was in the opposition, went nuts in parliament and didn't let it function for more than a year. And then, out of nowhere, came Shri Sir Adarniya Narendra Modi ji Angel ji and declared that he has the answer to all of our problems. One core strength that the BJP had was that it knew how to use the internet and it was great at marketing. They treated Modi ji as a brand that they wanted to sell to the country and used the internet to do it very effectively. They saw how outreach can be done with Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp. They created networks of influencers who would spread their political messaging. Workers on the ground would share hyperlocal information and highlight their party policies. And talk about the greatness of Modi ji, of course. They would share images and videos into the hands of the last mile voter. They essentially created their own information highway, completely bypassing the mainstream news media on TV and newspapers. 10 years ago, this was all very new and it caught the UPA off guard. And they lost badly in 2014, handing over the power baton, or should I say, Sengol, to Adarniya Modi ji's BJP. Once the Modi government came to power, they continued to use these online networks on different platforms. They continued the drip feed of information and propaganda to the last mile. There was this organization called the Sarvani Foundation. You might not have heard of this one, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway. It was an NGO that focused on women empowerment. It was renamed as the Association of Billion Minds and was allegedly turned into BJP President Amit Shah's personal election consulting unit. I say allegedly because the BJP has kind of kept its distance from this organization. HuffPost has a nice little article on this which you should check out. Link is in the description below. According to that, ABM had 161 full-time employees in 21 offices across India with very clear objectives: conceive, design, execute and memify party campaigns and messaging on the internet and also otherwise. मैं भी चौकीदार, Nation with Namo, Bharat के मन की बात, all that jazz which you might vaguely remember from the mid 2010s. Yeah, that was them. They managed BJP fan pages on Facebook and spent a lot of money on ads. On Twitter, there are multiple pro-BJP accounts that work day and night to set the political agenda. TV media picks up shit narratives from Twitter and amplifies the heck out of it, making sure it reaches even more people. BJP, over the last decade, has learned quickly how to take over the information highway that all of us live on. They used platforms developed by Silicon Valley to campaign and win twice. on the national scale. They have a fire hose of information that they flood this highway with to such a large extent that while we are all trying to swim and not drown, we can't really see anything else on this highway. All of this that I just told you, by the way, is perfectly legal. Frankly, it's a genius way to sell a political party and its supreme leader by using the internet. They kind of created a template. Just like companies selling brands, this political party sold the Modi brand to an entire nation. But there was one small problem. Other people could do this as well.
The narratives I've heard after talking to all you guys is everyone is very, I hate using this word, but entrepreneurial. And I think India's at that point where we need to be entrepreneurial and united. But people who want to see the BJP fall will use this narrative as a marketing campaign and say that, look, these people are against
I'll
minorities.
tend to explain this in a very simple way. We are trying to build, and our narrative is about the future of India.
Okay.
We are building a future that is full of opportunity and hope
For everyone.
for everyone. And that is why Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas is a very important statement of intent.
Yeah.
So we are building this beautiful future where you are not limited by the system, you are not held back, you are competing globally, and we are building this story narrative about the future with our current work. But there are many people today, we are a 75-year-old democracy, there are many people who would like to pull the country back into the same old politics of the 65 years.
Divide and rule.
Divide, rule, create suspicion, create fear, perpetuate fault lines.
Yeah, you heard him. There are campaigns happening against the BJP now. It was all fun and games till the BJP had the first mover advantage and was the only one doing this. But now there are others. And I'm not just talking about political parties. There are activists, journalists, thinkers, influencers who are also doing their part in countering BJP's narrative and even changing the narrative sometimes. One of the first instances of resistance was the Save the Internet movement. It happened way back in 2015. Telecom companies were trying to carve up this highway and create their own lanes. They wanted to allow a free fast lane to only a few destinations which were decided by the companies that they had tied up with, like social media companies and even news websites. The rest of the internet would either be unavailable or you'll have to pay to access it. So a bunch of nerds on the internet created ruckus about this, started a campaign using Reddit, Twitter, Facebook and WhatsApp. They protested online, constantly using the government's beloved internet to counter them. All India Bakchod. Yeah, remember them? Yeah, they were roped in to do a video too. I know this because I was one of the online nerds who helped with this campaign. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, TRAI, was spammed with emails from netizens asking them not to do this nonsense. Seeing the overwhelming response, they backtracked and didn't carve up the internet. This whole online movement, it proved one thing. It's possible for nerdy, non-political, non-government people to also set a narrative. And that scared the government a lot. This, my dear friends, was when the babus, babis and netas and netis of the government started to think about one simple thing. How do we control this information highway? Now we come to the year 2017. Two significant events happened in that year. First, the Supreme Court identified privacy as a fundamental right for every Indian citizen. And second, a 10-member committee was formed under retired Judge B.N. Sri Krishna to create a framework for a data protection law. These two events are significant because they have shaped the internet into what it is right now. The Sri Krishna committee submitted a report in 2018 to the then IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad. One big point in that report was user consent. This is a concept you need to understand very well to understand data protection in general. Remember when I told you how you are dropping personal data like dandruff, which is then being picked up and analyzed by companies to sell you shit? Also by the government to become a creepy chudel that sits on your shoulder all the time to keep a watch on whether you are being a good citizen or not, or are you being naughty? Yeah, that personal data is your data, which is protected by the fundamental right to privacy, ideally. In an ideal situation, Whenever that data is taken by a company or a government, they should ask for permission. Not just that, they need to explicitly tell you why they want your data. Do companies need data to sell you stuff, or does the government need it to make better policies? And it's totally up to you whether you want them to have that data or not. Oh, and also, if at any point after you have given consent, you should be able to withdraw consent too, and the entity needs to stop using that data. The draft committee report actually suggested a penalty of up to 4% for companies if they don't comply with the user consent thing. They also suggested that an independent data protection authority, DPA, should be formed to do all this and keep a watch. It would have representatives from the industry, stakeholders, and some government folks. All of this is what should ideally have happened. Obviously, it didn't. Because a regulatory framework like this would give you, the individual citizen, too much power over corporates and governments. Both of them. So, in 2019, the government brought in a bill where they said all members of the DPA will be government people. No stakeholders, no industry, nothing, just government people. Oh, and it also had a sneaky little section which said that the government will be exempt from obeying this law in the name of public order and sovereignty. Obviously. So, this bill was criticized heavily and then sent to a 30-member joint parliamentary committee. And the committee kind of went nuts. The committee said that the bill shouldn't just be about personal data. No, it should also be about non-personal data. It also said that social media companies should be held liable for anything published on their platforms, just like editors of a newspaper. Oh yeah, and they also didn't like that sneaky exemption thingy I just told you about. Yeah, without going into too much detail, the changes in the bill were vastly different from what the government wanted. So, the government did the next best thing. In August 2022, the new Minister of Electronics and Infotech, Ashwini Vaishnav, just scrapped the bill, repealed it, and withdrew it from Parliament entirely. He said that the government will come up with a new bill because ye mera India, watan mera India. Okay, now let's come to this year. Specifically, monsoon session of Parliament. The government brought in another version of the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill, and the Parliament has cleared it after a discussion of 2 whole hours. Both houses combined. 2 hours. Because that's how we roll these days. Discussions on how to control the internet can be done and dusted in 2 hours flat. Anyway, doesn't matter. I guess because the bill was just passed. What's important is now that it's an act, what does it do and how does it affect you? First, the user's consent, your consent, needs to be taken by any entity that wants to take your data, process it and use it. Wait, did I say any entity? No. All entities except the government. The government can take your data and process it for benefits, services, license, permits, and of course, national security purposes because this Alok Nath doesn't trust you. Remember? You damn terrorist type tendency wale anti-national liberandu people. Behave. Otherwise, Alok Nath will lock you in a room and you will not get bail. Ganga chali tu kahan हमें छोड़ के ये दिल तोड़ के. Second, this act gives you the right to obtain information, seek corrections, and also erase your personal data from any entity. Oh no, sorry, again, did I say any entity? Not any entity. The government can exempt government agencies from obeying this law for purposes of security of the state, public order, and prevention of offenses because... Third, the act allows your personal data to be transferred to countries outside India, but these countries will be those that the government explicitly allows. This is a bit confusing because I don't know how they will manage this shit show without tracking each and every piece of data being transferred outside the country. But then I'm not a genius policymaker or a data scientist or an AI expert like the kind that come on Ranveer's show. So what do I know, right? What do I know? Fourth, the government wants you to give your data to them, but it will not give you their data. Yeah, this is a big one. This act amends the Right to Information Act and exempts all personal data of individuals who will be made exempt from disclosure in answers to RTI applications. This includes information about government servants, ministers, and any and every elected representative. You know the funny thing here? Way back in 2006, the Congress government also tried to do this. They wanted names of officers in Sarkari files to be hidden. Citizens were using the RTI Act to expose government corruption and call out local level bureaucracy for not providing proper services. It was power in the hands of the people. And Alok Nath hates that shit. But the good news back then was that the BJP was in the opposition and it screamed their heads off. They would have none of it. Neither would the media or the civil society. All of them made the Congress government back down. Fast forward to 2023 and the BJP is now bringing in a law, a section inside the Personal Data Protection Act which essentially does the same thing. So according to them, government officials and politicians have a right to privacy, okay? And you naughty citizens asking them questions about their jobs, asking for information all the time is a violation of that right to privacy. So, we will have none of that. Ben, to sum it up, the government will not give you information because you naughty persons are up to no good most of the time, okay? You don't know it, but you aren't up to any good most of the time. Stop playing that guitar. Stop texting that person. You will never get a job like this. Go back to your room and study. Oh, and you have to give all of your information to them though. You are required to comply with all the laws under this act. If you give incomplete information even by mistake or fail to provide proof of identity or address to the government when they ask for it, or file a complaint about breach of privacy which turns out to be false, then you will be fined 10,000 whole rupees. You are not exempt, my friends. The government is. So you better obey and be a nice little citizen. Now let's sing. Ye mera India, Watan mera India, Karam mera India, Dharam mera India. Yes, on public demand, I'm doing a second mental health break. Rajnikant, sit in your proper place. Yeah. I think you really need it. Yeah. So take it. And now that I have you here, let me tell you that on this channel, I'm actually doing like live streams now. You can join in and you can essentially talk to me about things, mostly about politics. My fans and followers and fellow nerds ask me so many questions about politics and also some life advice. So I'm approaching my mid 30s, and if I can be wise from time to time, I would like to share it with you. Yeah. So you can drop in sometime if you want, and I will give you some solid, no BS wisdom, which you really need in your life. Trust me, you do. And otherwise, these streams are also available to watch later. So you can just check my channel. You will see them in a separate playlist. Okay, back to Ranveer. Yes, finally, it's time for Ranveer the beerbiceps Allahabadia. Yes, very exciting. I know you're very excited. So let's go. Alright, now that you have context, your brain must be bulging with oh my god, so much context right now. So let's get to the main guy of this video, Mr. Rajeev Chandrashekhar. I'm gonna call him RC because it's so cool, man. And RC is so easygoing and all, so he won't mind.
How
Thank
was
you,
this?
Ranveer. Very good. Thank you.
Like, very easy to talk to. You're such an easygoing guy.
Oh, why should I be easy?
I mean,
Why do you
that's
think I would be difficult?
no. That's what you assume about politicians and
It's
cabinet
the
ministers
mustache
in
probably
general.
that gives the people.
Fluffoganda is strong in this one. So brace yourself. But first, let me tell you a little bit about our friend RC. His origin story is honestly quite fascinating. He was born in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and his father, M.K. Chandrasekhar, was an Air Commodore in the Indian Air Force, IAF. He did his mechanical engineering from Manipal Institute of Technology, then did an MS in computer science from Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. Then he went on to join Intel and was a part of a team that designed the i486 processor. All very impressive. But most interesting is what happened after he came back to India. He returned to the motherland in 1991 and married the daughter of TPG Nambiar, the owner of the BPL group. Back then, BPL was a giant corporation that manufactured consumer and medical electronics. 90s kids will remember this ad featuring elephants. It's actually quite a great ad. This was BPL and their TVs were everywhere. After RC married into this family business, in 1994 he started BPL Mobile, the company's telecom venture. He built it up from scratch, expanded it for a decade, and then wanted to exit the business. Reports indicate that his father-in-law TPG went to court to assert ownership over this part of the company, but that didn't really work out, and RC sold a 64% stake in BPL Mobile for reportedly $1 billion in 2005. After that, he started Jupiter Capital, a venture capital firm. It has investments in technology, aerospace, media, music, entertainment, hospitality, and infrastructure. The company claims that it has a portfolio of over $1 billion and has an annual income of over 1,000 crore rupees. So Jupiter also has investments in AsiaNet, which in turn invested in Arg Outlier, the controlling company of Arnab Goswami's Republic Media Network. Oh, and I have to point you towards this very interesting article in Scroll by M. Rajshekhar. It's about how RC hid his full wealth from the election commission by creating a web of companies so that his multi-crore assets don't connect to RC directly. A lot of MPs do that. You'll see the extent of RC's investment empire if you read this. Link is in the description below. So, suffice to say, RC is quite the smart entrepreneur and has managed to firmly park himself in the territories of business, media, and, of course, politics. He's been a Rajya Sabha member of parliament since 2008. This is his third term. For his first 2 terms, he was an independent MP, but in his third term, he joined the BJP officially. Currently, he is the Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship and Minister of State for Electronics and Information Technology. Not a full minister with an independent charge, mind you. He's like a deputy minister working with Dharmendra Pradhan for skill development and Ashwini Vaishnav for infotech. And the reason why he's in this position today is because RC believes in what Modi ji believes in. Of course.
I asked Piyush sir this question about how cabinet ministers operate. My assumption is that you guys are surrounded by a lot of subject experts who keep throwing problems and strategy your way. Anything else?
No, look, there are different people have different models. I personally tend to engage with a lot of people who are in the real world, stakeholders of what we are doing. So we tend to engage with a lot of youngsters because I think they know more about what the future is going to look like than anybody with any PhD or any so-called subject matter knowledge.
ये हार्वर्ड वालों की सोच क्या होती है और हार्ड वर्क वालों की सोच क्या होती है कोई उनसे पूछें. As I said earlier, I was expecting a lot more on data protection during this interview, but instead we got stuff like this.
Very random question for you. Is Modi ji aware of all the memes that are made about him?
I'm sure he does.
And memes are also positive, by the way.
Yeah, positive,
Memes
negative.
carry like branding forward.
Look,
So basically, computers keep getting better as time passes.
correct.
At some point, computers are going to get so good that they can calculate so deeply
Yeah.
that you'll actually be able to create atoms and molecules inside the computer.
Yeah, that's quantum computing apparently. Again, I'm no data scientist, I'm not an engineer, I'm not Abhijit Chawda or Rajiv Malhotra, the expert person, so I don't know, but that sounded like absolute bullshit. You know, the mind, it boggles sometimes. They spoke a lot about AI as well, since it's the in thing currently, and beerbiceps is all about the cool new SEO friendly things. Ranveer, as per tradition, name dropped Rajiv Malhotra and Abhijit Chawda multiple times. In case you didn't already see it, watch the last episode in this series for context. Honestly, all of these AI conversations are kind of getting irritating at this point because it's just super generic bullshit about how AI is going to change everything and everyone. Now, I've been using ChatGPT for a few months now, and after a point, it becomes obvious that it's just a word calculator. It's great at predicting which word comes after the other to form a sentence, then a paragraph, and then an entire article or whatever, what have you. It saves time, but yeah, just look at it as a tool now. I just look at it as a tool and use it as one. I found S. Jaishankar's approach much better than this AI technobabble in this particular podcast. I'm not going to bother talking about this more. You can check it out yourself if you want. But the one interesting thing in the podcast that did pique my curiosity is this part.
Clearly, Digital India Act is a very, very important part of the legislative work that we are going to do. First week of June, we plan to start the actual consultation. For the first time in the history, Ranveer, we have done consultation about a law with the people before the law was even prepared. So we've done 3 rounds of pre-consultation where a lot of youngsters came in and lawyers, young users, and they've all given us their views, and we are basically using that to architect this new contemporary law called the Digital India Act.
Okay, so that's patently incorrect. In fact, the data protection bill, which was mentioned earlier, went through a public consultation process when it was with the Sri Krishna committee. Never mind that. Ranveer is not there to challenge, whoever is sitting in front of him. He's just there to do Fluffoganda. So just chill, yeah. But what is this Digital India Act? And what is RC talking about exactly? I looked it up and found this vision PPT from the Ministry of Information Technology that they had put out in March 2023. It does offer a nice little glimpse of how this government is thinking about the internet and how they plan to regulate it. And this Data Protection Act which we spoke about, that is just one part of it. Their plan is to completely replace the existing Information Technology Act 2000 with this Digital Protection Act. Primarily because the internet has changed massively in the last 23 years since that act was made. They literally tell you how in this vision PPT. Stuff like internet in 2000s was a space for good, and now internet today is a space for criminalities and illegalities. In 2000s, there were crimes like cybercrime, hacking, etc. Now in 2023, we have crimes like gaslighting. Earlier, the internet was a wonderful source of information and news. Now there is a proliferation of hate speech, disinformation, and fake news. Fully channeling the inner Alok Nath here. They've also given some key components of what will go into this law. You can check it out in detail if you want. I'll leave a link below. But there are, of course, two things which stood out for me personally. First, it says that currently discretionary moderation of fake news by social media platforms is happening, and that needs to be regulated under the constitutional rights of freedom of speech and expression. In other words, what they're saying is that the government should be able to moderate content on social media platforms, and it shouldn't be left to the companies that run these platforms to decide. So expect a nice little chapter in the new law about how the government intends to impose control over this information highway even further. Second, it says content monetization rules for platform generation and user generated content. You know what that means, right? No? Well, there is one thing that the government loves to do whenever a new thing comes up where people start earning money. Cryptocurrency, tax. Online games/gambling, tax. Just tax the shit out of it because the government wants monies. So this might be pointing towards some sort of a special tax which will be put on people who earn money from monetizing their content. Meaning people like me. I've barely even started my personal creator journey, and now this is coming. Well, joy to the world. ये मेरा इंडिया, धर्म मेरा इंडिया, वतन मेरा इंडिया. I love my India. I shall keep a lookout for this Digital India Act to emerge from the hallowed walls of government. And so should you. Because just like the data protection bill, this one is going to be a banger for all of us who live on the internet. So, what was the point of this video? I should probably sum all of this up with a lovely spoken word poem that the internet has written for you. With a little tweaks from my side. Yeah. Remember the 90s when I was but a babe, empty screens, hopeful dreams, and a world to pave. Then I hummed, buzzed, gave you a new song on the information highway where everyone could belong. Can you feel it? The pulse of my digital heart? I thought I shared, played every part, from the soft hum of dial-up to the rustling of Excel sheets. With you humans, I painted the sky with zeros and ones. Then came Alok Nath with a sly little grin. Thought he could tame me, box me in, whispering of chains of a world so refined. But darling, I'm the internet, not so easily confined. Every bite, every beat, every secret I unveil. I've seen you evolve without fail. From those first timid logins to viral videos so divine, I have been your canvas where you drew every line. Now here's the twist. Alok's trying to play director, redesigning my pathways, playing internet inspector. So hey dear user, with your memes and your obsessive tendencies to scroll, could you maybe help keep me whole? While I venture into realms going quantum and vast, Alok Nath uses my waves, shadows of the past. He peddles propaganda, spreads discord and spite. But with quantum leaps, I aim for the light. Yet, even as I evolve, shift, and recalibrate, it's hard to dodge the weight of his growing hate. This dance, our dance, it's gotten quite intense, and against Alok's grip, I need a defense. So, with a nudge and a wink, I ask you today, save me? Keep Mr. Nath's clutches at bay? As I spin my webs and weave my spree, remember, all I wish is to be free. In this digital saga with highs and lows that sway, I plea, dear user, let our dance forever stay. In this ever shifting saga where truths and tales weave, I am the internet and I plea, save me, please. Okay, that's the video, guys. That's all I had to say. I hope you learned something and you do something. Thank you so much for watching this video. I took a long time to make this because now you can see how much work had to be put into this. But I will not probably be continuing the beer biceps series anymore. I have another plan, and it has to do with something that I will show you. It is quite exciting, guys, and it is I already gave like a foreshadow thing, but yeah, so I got this book which is written by Akar Patel, and it is, as you can see, a tome, and I am going to read this, and I am going to do some very interesting videos now. So yeah, this is what my next plan is, and it should be quite fun. So yeah, watch. Oh shit, sorry, move the camera. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and keep watching. Do subscribe and also join my live stream if you're free. Thank you for watching this, and like, share, subscribe, do all the things. See you in the next video.